Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news, and have we got a jam-packed show for you today. We've got INEOS, angry, fuming with Erik ten Hag. We'll talk about what that's all about. We've got Michael Olise snubbing Manchester United. What's the truth around that? We've got stories coming out from Italy that Juventus would be open to swapping or doing a deal with Manchester United for CHIESA involving either Sancho or Greenwood. Is that viable? We'll talk about that as well. Calafiori has been linked to Manchester United, as again we'll be talking about Lenny Yoro. There's some developments around that as well. I'll tell you what, we may talk about Xerxes and Branthwaite, but I'm very happy to be saying that I think I've got a jam-packed show where we don't need to talk about some of the stuff that we've sort of, you know, got a little bit bored of because there's nothing really developing at the moment. So let's fly into it. Lots to get into. Want to talk about this story where INEOS are fuming with Ten Hag. A story that came out last night. It's to do with Ten Hag's interview when he was a pundit for Dutch TV on the Euro 2024, and he said that you know, the club talking to Tuchel wouldn't have happened in the Netherlands, and also that they turned up in Ibiza to offer him the job. This is apparently upset INEOS. We'll talk about that. Look, I'll give you the full story around it and where it's come from, but I do just want to start off with something that I think is a little bit more important. We've spent a lot of time talking about Olise to Manchester United over the last few months, and you can't do that and then sweep it under the carpet when that deal doesn't happen. Last night I was watching Netherlands against France, and I just finished the 7 o'clock show, and literally David Ornstein dropped two stories. One, that Chelsea were out of the race for Olise. Unfortunately, some United aggregators didn't wait a few minutes because they started putting pictures of Olise in a Man United shirt, which backfired in minutes because Ornstein then dropped another story saying that Bayern Munich had basically won the race for Olise. So I suppose from our point of view, and Orcus said that Olise is a prat. Look, I did a video in late March, early April saying done deal, basically, for Olise. But obviously, you know, if anybody watched that video, it still stands true today. Olise was a high priority player for INEOS. You can speak to any credible journalist, any credible person out there. Manchester United, INEOS wanted Olise, and I think they genuinely thought they were going to get him. There was a release clause there they could hit. There was good conversations with representatives, and Olise was also always very open to Manchester United. So that deal was there to be done. The question is, why hasn't it been done? And I think there's an accumulation of things that you're all intelligent enough to figure out. First of all, I'm joking. First of all, well, I think there's two major reasons. Three reasons, actually. First of all, the competition for his place probably escalated what Man United thought and caused problems for the third reason. So I think the first reason is the fact that Newcastle and Bayern and Chelsea went so hard so quick. That sounds wrong. Was a problem. I think Man United thought that it would be an easier pathway to getting a player that was open to coming to Manchester United. But I think the aggressiveness of Bayern Munich and Chelsea especially set Man United back because they were trying to get the deal done quickly, and obviously that's happened. So I think that was problematic. Second of all, I think because of the speed in which Bayern Munich and Chelsea moved, Man United are prioritising, quite rightly, centre-back, striker at the moment, and therefore they don't have the money before June the 30th to go for Olise, and they may not have it even on July the 1st because they need to sell to buy and still haven't moved on Sancho or Greenwood. So I think we were sort of stuck watching this deal and going, it's passing us by. This opportunity is passing us by. Now that will frustrate a lot of people, but reality is, it's passed us by not because of INEOS. It's passed us by because of the Glazers, because of the previous regime. You have got to move Greenwood and Sancho on, and potentially even Rashford to get Olise. And we've not removed any of them yet. Whereas Chelsea and Bayern Munich were going, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we weren't in that position to move quickly. And thirdly, I think the nail in the coffin, really, if we're being completely honest, and Eddie Johnson says it there, Olise wanted 300k a week. Well, I don't think it's 300k a week. I think it's more somewhere around 250k a week. And I think that was the nail in the coffin for United. I think that the deal was moving too quickly. The competition was too big. we didn't have the money, and then the wage was obviously going up due to what happens when you've got Bayern Munich and Chelsea going for a player. You're in a bidding war, and United are, rightly or wrongly, I would lean rightly, many of you would lead wrongly, you're going to have to pay 225, 250k a week to Elise. Forget about it. Forget about it. You know, you can't do it. You can't do it. You literally just can't do it. It would be... I think... Look, I like the player. I'm really disappointed that we're not going to get him. But I also think that there has to be a cut-off somewhere. And, yeah, that cut-off has to be... just making a note for later in the show. Yeah, there has to be a cut-off. And look, I'm going to say something controversial, maybe. I don't think we should be paying Elise over 200 grand a week. And therefore, if we have to walk away, we have to walk away. Because, look, let me just play devil's advocate here, and it will not be popular. I know INEOS wanted Elise. Everybody knows that Man United wanted Elise. Elise was open to coming to Man United, but ultimately... there are clubs that are saying, we'll give you this, we'll give you this, we'll give you this. And Man United look at it and go, we can't give him that. We can't give him 225k a week because we're trying to solve this debt problem that the Glazers have piled on the club for the last 10 years. So Jim Radcliffe is sat there in interviews saying, this club's been run badly around recruitment for 10 years. And then you go and outbid Chelsea and Bayern Munich and give him 225k a week. And then he comes to Man United, he gets injured 3 times in the first year, he has a crap season, and everyone's saying, oh, wow, look at this, Glazers 2.0. And I know what it's like to hear that and go, oh, no, I want him, I want him, I want him. Nobody, you know, when you want a PS5 for Christmas and your parents say, we didn't get you a PS5 because we can't afford to get you any games for it. Oh, I'll be fine with just the PS5. You won't. You need the games, and it's the same with Elise. If you give him that money, he's got to hit the ground running. He's got to stay fit. And look, maybe he could, but maybe Anthony could have done that. Maybe Pogba could have done that. You know, maybe Maguire was going to do that, and they didn't. So I think that this is a financial thing. I think the competition, I think the price, and I think the wages took us away from this deal, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And the flip side of it is that. What's the alternative? Because I look at it and go, you don't always get what you want in life. That's we all know that. But what's the alternative? Because if the alternative is sticking with Rashford, sticking with Anthony, sticking with Garnacho, sticking with, you know, Ahmad, where's the creativity coming from the wing that we actually crave? And Elise, Premier League proven, creative monster. And we still need that. Now, whether we're going to develop that with what we've got is a question. But we have to have that creativity. Lots of people mentioning Doué, Neil Evans saying it as well, Gabriel as well. Look, I don't know where we move next, but we need some creativity from the wing, that's for sure. Okay, it is the weekend. We will get some... did Bayern sign Elise, says NSF? I don't think it's here we go yet, but I think it's going to happen, yes. Anyway, wanted to get that out of the way. Neto, says Red Devil. Well, look, I wouldn't... I can't go back on what I said in February. I'd prefer Neto to Elise. It then became obvious that we wanted Elise, and I was very excited about that. But if we go back to February when it was Neto or Elise, I actually went with Neto. So, you know, what about Kubo as well, says the Great One. There are players out there. There are wingers out there. Nico Williams, why not, says Jack. There are wingers out there with creativity. Go and get one. Simple as that. Kubo, Neto, Williams. There are players out there. We need a creative player from the wing. Absolutely. We'll talk about Chiesa in a moment, actually. In fact, what I'll do is I'll do a live compare of Chiesa against Rashford and Garnacho, and we'll look at that, and we'll throw in Elise as well, so we can look at that creativity if we've got time. Remind me about that, because we did it last night with Xerxes and Rasmus, and I want to bring that more in. But I want to do it interactive. I can't stand those videos where people do little cutaway videos and, you know, 5-10 minute videos telling you all about a player, but there's no conversation backwards. We're interactive, so I'll do that live. I think our priorities should be centre-back, midfield, fullback, striker, winger. I honestly love Neto or Conceição. Coach current wingers to pass, says Rahul. Nobody at the club is worth more than 200k a week, says Paul. Exactly. So Jim Radcliffe said this. Like, we've spent over £1 billion in the last 10 years. We've got no players worth over £100 million. Real Madrid have got 6 or 7. So you're right. You know, if you buy Elise and you give him 225k a week, is he worth £100 million? No. But look, wages, if I was INEOS, I would do this. I would put it up in the dressing room and I would say, this is how our wage structure works. If you're on 250k a week, then you need to be worth £100 million. If you're on 190 grand a week, then you need to be worth £80 million. And if you're on 150 grand a week, then you've got to be worth around £50 million. Like, just put it out there in black and white. Like, we need to have a wage structure and the players need to have something to aim for. So if you want 250 grand a week, be worth £100 million in the transfer market. It's that simple. Thank you very much. Anthony will come but good, says Keel. I hope so. Anyway, look, let's go to this headline. Manchester United are fuming, INEOS are fuming with Erik ten Hag. So this has come out from The Sun, and it's come out from Neil Custis, who said Man United Chiefs fume at Erik ten Hag for revealing details of their Ibiza summit in bombshell interview with Dutch TV. Erik ten Hag is in hot water with Manchester United's hierarchy after revealing details of their Ibiza summit. The Red Devils boss was on holiday when officials from the club turned up to his doorstep asking him to continue as club manager. They also informed him that they'd spoken to other candidates, including Thomas Tuchel. Ten Hag was understandably angry with how he'd been treated and the way in which this message was delivered when he was supposed to be on a relaxing break. However, Sir Jim Radcliffe and INEOS are also unhappy that what they thought was a private meeting was made public by the manager on Dutch television this week. The club do want to give Ten Hag a three-year new deal, but understandably there is still some way to go before that agreement is made. So what do we make of this? Now, honestly, I can categorically tell you that this is a storm in a teacup, and there is probably a reason for that storm. So INEOS are angry with Erik ten Hag for revealing that he wasn't happy with the way that he got treated, and they interviewed Tuchel, and also he has also revealed that they turned up in Ibiza to tell him he's got the job. So let me break it down. Should have a little section for break it down. INEOS are unhappy with Erik ten Hag revealing that they went out in person to tell him he'd got the job instead of doing it over the phone or by fax. And they're also unhappy because Erik ten Hag mentioned being uncomfortable with them interviewing other candidates. However, Erik ten Hag also said in that interview that he understood that as new owners, they were basically making a fresh start and looking at all options before deciding he was the best manager. So that's bollocks straight away, because as much as Erik ten Hag said he was uncomfortable with it, he also said he understood it because they were new owners. And why would INEOS be fuming with Erik ten Hag? Because he revealed that they had the courtesy to get on a plane and speak to him in person about why they were keeping him for the job, instead of leaving him hanging on holiday for a few more weeks or doing it over the phone or by WhatsApp. This is a non-story. This is a load of crap. And the reason we're bringing it up is because it's a new show, but also because it needs to be cut down like a weed. It needs to be cut down and taken out at the root, because we are trying to build something positive here. We should be focusing on transfers. What we've got here is, and you know, you will get this a lot in life, and it does happen a lot. And effectively, it's almost like the obsessive ex syndrome. You may have been in this situation. Of course, I've had it a lot, you know. Just look at me over the years. I mean, I'm not the sort of person who's going to get dumped. You know, I've accumulated a lot of frustrated and, you know, upset exes throughout my life. At least 3. And one of them was from primary school. And I was at primary school at the time, so I know that sounds dodgy, but you know what I mean. I was 7. Basically, I had a girlfriend. She was also 7. She'd gone on holiday for a week, so while she was away, I started, you know, talking to some other girl who was also my age. And then we got on quite well, but then the other girl came back from holiday, and I was sort of like, it was just something to pass the time. So we've all been in that situation before. Some of you might, judging by some of the chat, you probably haven't. You're probably really excited. You can live my memories if you want. Don't do the primary school stuff though. That's a bit odd. But as I said, I was 7 at the time. But look, the point is, what we've got here, bringing it back to the football, is Erik ten Hag is the manager of Manchester United, and INEOS have backed that manager. But what you've got is a very, very large collective of, let's say, people, but those people could be journalists, could be United fans, and they're suffering with jealousy syndrome, because they basically wanted Ten Hag to go, and he's not. And instead of moving on, their bitterness won't let them. So they're constantly stalking, looking for reasons to create negativity around a manager that they thought was going to go. And I actually found this quote, actually, and I thought this is really good. And it applies to this, but it also applies to everything else in life, whether it's an ex or whatever. If you're constantly obsessed about me and my life, if you're constantly trying to find flaws in me and my life, and if you're constantly talking about me behind my back, that just means you're jealous, insecure. Get well soon. And I think that's the message, isn't it? We know that these people are out there in relation to Ten Hag, and they wanted a certain outcome. We knew that. We knew that was coming. They wanted him gone. They were very vocal about it, and they didn't get what they wanted. And like a jealous ex, they're obsessed. They're stalking. Every minute of every day, they're looking for reasons to create stories and flaws about this manager, because they're jealous and insecure that they think they're right and they've been ignored and they've been swept aside. This should not have happened to me. I should have been listened to. He shouldn't be here anymore. So they're obsessed. They are obsessed, and they're looking for flaws, and they're constantly looking at Ten Hag, trying to find stories and stuff. Because they're insecure and they're jealous. At the end of the day, what they should do is realise what we did when the Glazers stayed. I wanted a full sale and I wanted the Glazers out. And yet here I am, 6 months, 7 months nearly after, going, let's get on board with INEOS. This is the reality. This is what it is. Let's hope it can work. I'm not there going, oh, where's a bad story about INEOS? Oh, INEOS. Oh, Sir Jim's got a Chelsea season ticket. I'm like, we lost. We now move on with the change. But some people can't do that. They just get stuck in the past, obsessed with something, instead of moving on. And the press should move on. The fans are very happy in the majority about what we're doing. We're talking transfers. We're moving on. We're looking forward to next season. But unfortunately, we're going to take these bitter, insecure people with us who are going to try and find reasons to have a go. So, it's I don't believe it, which is why the title says INEOS, inverted commas, fuming with Ten Hag, because I don't think that they are. I don't think they're fuming at all. I think that, and also, if they were fuming with him about revealing about the Ibiza story or talking about Tuchel, hold on a minute, it wasn't Erik ten Hag who dropped an Ornstein bomber. It was the press. The press told us weeks before Ten Hag did that INEOS were talking to Thomas Frank and Tuchel, and the press told us weeks before Ten Hag did that they'd flown out to Ibiza to talk to him. So Ten Hag revealed nothing. That's the funny thing. Mr. D says, imagine the first press conference. Mate, these people are bitter. They're bitter. They're not going to stop. As we know, one particular journalist tweeted during a Man United game, sack this manager now. You don't come back from that. I'm sure Ten Hag will give that person a comeback, but that person, I don't think they come back from that. I think most people I've met in this industry, whether it's ex-players or journalists, are so far up their arse, they can't see the wood for the trees, and they're stubborn. They're stubborn people because they get to type what they want, and they think that we still live in a world 15 years ago where everyone has to listen. And they're still stuck in the past on that. And what they don't realise is, and I realised this many years ago, I can be stubborn, I can have an opinion, but if I do that all the time, then that we don't build what we've built. You have to listen. You have to have an opinion, but you have to listen. And I think that there are people out there that will not do that with Ten Hag. I hope they do for the betterment of their career. I hope they do listen, because everybody loves a comeback. But if they're going to continue with this negativity through next season, then they're going to get, it's going to be tough for them, isn't it? But I don't believe this story. And the reason we brought it in, and we started off with Elise, to be fair, but the reason it's a bit of a headline is because I'm bored of talking about Branthwaite and Xerxes. But I also think if you grab a weed when it just starts sprouting out from the crack in your pavement, you get rid of it quickly. If you let that weed grow, it will grow big and it will spread and grow other weeds. And we need to call this out very early and say, these INEOS Ten Hag tension stories are bollocks. We're talking about transfers. Who's the winger we're going for now? Who's the centre-back we're signing for now? That's what we want to talk about. This whole INEOS Ten Hag tension will be brought up by radio stations, journalists, to try and further their jealousy and insecurity that they didn't get what they wanted. And we should call it out. You don't have to, but we should call it out, because the decision has been made. And if we'd got Thomas Tuchel, do you think those who didn't want him would be sat there before the season's even started going, oh, have you seen the pictures of him on holiday? He's got blue pants on. He must be a Chelsea fan, really. Get him out. We'd have to just get on with it. We might not agree with it, but we'd have to get on with it. Mark, who's one player you want United to sign, says All Day Gamer. Can everyone else get involved in that? I think that's a good question. One player I'd like to see Man United sign is tough, because I don't agree with we need one player. But out of everybody that we've been linked to, João Neves, I think, would be the one. He'd be the one player that I think I would go statement. I want Todibo. I want Branthwaite. I quite like the idea of Xerxes. Although, did you see that Chelsea now? I'm sure bloody Chelsea... I said this last summer. I'm sure bloody Todd Bowley watches the United stand. I'm absolutely convinced. Do you remember last summer we were talking about, or maybe it was January, we were talking about, it happened 3 times. It happened in the January transfer window of 2023. It happened last summer transfer window. And it happened in the January transfer window this year. We talk about a player that's a bit out there that United should look at. And the next thing you know, Chelsea are linked to them. They're now going for Bayer from Hoffenheim. This morning, Chelsea are going for Bayer from Hoffenheim. I've never heard him linked to them at all. We've been talking about him for the last 2 weeks. Oh, Man United should go for Bayer. He's a good deal. Release clause is low. Chelsea are going for him now. And Chelsea fans think that their recruitment policy isn't about listening to what other clubs are trying to do. But anyway, look, I think United are all in on Xerxes at the moment, aren't they? So we'll see what happens with that. There could be a development on Xerxes. Xerxes, all I'd say about Xerxes is that I didn't really have anything to say. We've got loads to talk about. But on Xerxes, it's a waste of time, him being part of that Dutch squad. He's never getting on. They've got, obviously, Memphis. They always bring Weghorst on. They've got Brobby on the bench. He's just not going to get on. He was only drafted in because of injuries. I just do not think we're going to see Xerxes at all for the Dutch, which is a shame, really, for 2 reasons. One, it'd be nice to see him. 2, he probably, if he wasn't there, we'd probably get this deal done a lot quicker and he'd be part of our pre-season straight away. So it's a bit frustrating in relation to that. Ten Hag must become Sir Alex media-wise, says Mr. D. So yeah, João Neves, and also imagine his first press conference. How are we all doing, says Rub. We're doing well, mate. Sarvish says, media don't like Ten Hag. They will build a narrative over the next year that the majority of fans only started supporting Ten Hag after the cup final. We need to remember the majority of the fans were always Ten Hag in, says Sarvish. Daniel says, Guehi for me. We need centre-backs desperately. Good point, good point. And Nitin says, in relation to Chiesa, Juventus would be stupid to do that unless he's got a problem like Tonali. Tonali, greetings from Qatar. Yeah, I don't understand. So yeah, let's talk about this next. Just very quickly in relation to Lenny Yoro, Man United, PSG, Liverpool are apparently still hanging around this deal, but obviously his preference is Real Madrid. Are we wasting time? Technically, yes, but probably no. It's not. It doesn't take any time to contact Lille and say we're interested in doing a deal. It doesn't take any time to contact Lenny Yoro's agent and say we'd really like you to come to Man United. That doesn't take any time. It takes time to start negotiating, And if we get to the negotiation stage and he just wants to listen to everybody, that's dangerous. Really, you just say to Lille and Yoro, we'd love you at Man United, and if you want to talk, here's our card. If we're doing that, I don't mind. But if you start negotiating, you're wasting time, because he's probably going to go to Real Madrid. I think Nacho's about to go to Saudi, isn't he? Anyway, let me talk to you about this Chiesa story. And what I want to do just very quickly about Chiesa, and I think it's going to be really interesting, so bear with me as I get this loaded up while I'm talking. I'm just going to run a comparison on some players that are creatives that we've looked at and sort of expose the problem that we've had at United. But look, in short, Corriere dello Sport and numerous Italian reports actually have linked Manchester United for a swap deal involving Chiesa and Sancho or Greenwood. So I think that what we need to do is just, first of all, sort of kill off swap deal, because I don't think swap deals actually happen. I think what actually happens is you end up with a scenario that we spoke about with Everton, and you could do it with Crystal Palace as well. You basically sign a player from look, you do a deal with Juventus for, let's say, Sancho, and that could be a loan deal, or it could be a full-time deal, or Greenwood, or it could be a full-time deal. And then what you do is you basically do another deal. I don't think swap deals are going to happen. I think it's going to be about can we do a deal here that Juventus wants for Chiesa, and then we do a deal for Greenwood that's mutually beneficial. I think it's more likely to happen with Greenwood, because Juventus do want Greenwood, but they can't really afford the package. So what you could do is say, look, you take Greenwood for 30 million plus add-ons, and we will take Chiesa for 40 million, something like that. So not a lot of money. Actually, money changes hands, but it's not involved in a swap deal. But look, let me just look. A lot of people talk about Chiesa, and I think there's a few things that I would bring in here, and actually it's quite good in relation to Elise. So I've taken Garnacho, Rashford, Chiesa, and Elise from last season. Age profile: Garnacho 19, Rashford 26, Chiesa 26, Elise 22. Passes per 90: 28 Garnacho, 27 Rashford, 25 Chiesa, 38 Elise. So he's on the ball a lot more in a team that's not actually... Crystal Palace is not like Man City. You wouldn't expect to have a lot of the ball. Accurate passes, 82% Elise, 77% Chiesa, 80% Rashford, 79% Garnacho. Now, let's have a look at creativity. What I wanted to have a look at here was what they're like in relation to creativity. So, successful attacking actions per 90, 6 for Garnacho, 4.4 for Rashford, 6.7 for Chiesa, 7.5 for Elise. Goals per 90, 0.6 for Elise, 0.2 for Rashford, 0.2 for Garnacho, 0.4 for Chiesa. So the creativity is more with Chiesa and Elise, which you would probably expect, to be fair. Assists per 90, 0.15 for Garnacho, 0.08 for Rashford, 0.06 for Chiesa, and 0.3 for Elise, who is just an absolute creative monster. Yeah. So crosses per 90 is quite interesting. 3.5 per 90 Chiesa, 2.7 Elise, 1.6 Rashford, 3.1 Garnacho. So Garnacho is putting more crosses into the box than Elise last season. 3.1 per 90, 2.7 for Elise. Rashford's nearly at 1.5, but Chiesa's putting more crosses than anybody. Accurate crosses, 25% Garnacho, 30% Rashford, 44% Chiesa, 21% Elise. So this is quite interesting. So Elise's a creative, but from crossing, he's worse than Garnacho last season, which shows you he's creating different types of goals, Elise. Dribbles per 90, 6.6 Garnacho, 5.6 Rashford, 7.2 Chiesa, 8 Elise. So I think that what you've got really there is, we all know that Garnacho is a player with a huge ceiling at 19. And Garnacho could become a creative monster. Like, he's not 26 and his pathway is chosen. Garnacho can develop more and more and more and more. I think Chiesa is a bit of a byline crosser. I think he is a player that can put a cross in, and he puts more crosses in than Elise. But Elise was far more creative. So look, Elise's not coming. Would I take Chiesa? I think if you want a right winger that's going to put crosses into the box, then, you know, he'd be a very interesting player. Is there anything that can be done there? I mean, he's only 26 as well. He's the same age as Rashford. Look, I would do a deal with Chiesa. What I will say is, it's Italian reports. There might be something we can do with Mason Greenwood. Honestly, where we're at the moment, if I could take £30 million from Lazio, or I could take £30 million from Juventus and do a deal that's good for Chiesa, I'd rather do the deal with and take Chiesa. So, yeah, I would take him, definitely. I think we need a creative. But whether Man United can bottom that out or not, I don't know. Now, somebody has mentioned Rabiot in the chat. Arnie says he's too old, Chiesa, at 26. Bloody hell. It's getting worse, isn't it? You know, 25's become the new 35. Rabiot's been linked to Real Madrid. I can't remember who by, but I saw it this morning. Rabiot has been linked to Real Madrid on a free deal as a replacement for Toni Kroos. Which says two things to me. One, we should be looking at him. And two, I don't really understand why some United fans don't rate him as a player. I understand the red flags around, you know, we've tried to get him twice and there might have been a bit of greed there. But I'm telling you now, he's a good player. Like, he's a good player, and he would massively improve our midfield. But I do understand the red flags around potential, you know, negotiations. But these are the sort of things that it's not Ten Hag signing Rabiot. INEOS would be involved, and if they make that decision, I would trust it. Lamine Production says, I think with Todibo, Nice should sell him to Premier League club with a 30 million release clause so we can activate it in the next summer. And Nitin, oh yeah, we've done that one from Nitin as well. Oh yes, Calafiori. We were linked. Somebody mentioned that today. They'd seen it somewhere. The source is shit. It's absolutely shit. I mean, I can't even bloody find where it was, but I'd read it somewhere this morning when I woke up about Calafiori. Would he be an option for Manchester United? Look, Italian centre-back. I was very impressed with him against Albania, and he's had a very good season with Bologna. But is this just a player playing well in the Euros? Juventus are highly likely to get hold of him. I don't think he's going to leave Italy, and I personally just think it's a name that he's being linked to because he's done well in the Euros, and Man United are looking for a centre-back. And yet again, if I was Bologna, I would throw Man United in the mix because you might get a little bit more money. We've got to be awake to the fact that everybody knows who Manchester United is, and everybody knows that Man United are looking to buy players. So if I own a club that's got a player that's going to leave this summer, I'm definitely going to get it out there that Man United want to buy him because it just bumps up interest. It probably bumps up the price. I don't see us going for Calafiori. Unless somebody like Ornstein or Romano comes out and says we're in talks about Calafiori. I really don't take any notice about it at all. I think at the moment, a summary of where we are in the transfer window is that we wanted Todibo, and it's off the table at the moment, although watch this space. We wanted Elise, and for the reasons we said at the start of the video, it's not been able to get done. Branthwaite and Xerxes are the two hottest deals at the moment, and we await the conclusion of that. I suspect we get both, but honestly, both could fall through, but I think we will get both. And then I think the midfielder becomes the priority, which will start a domino effect when Casemiro decides what he's doing. But in the backdrop to all of that, we have to remember what we all highlighted for months as being the number one fundamental important thing at United this summer. We're always going to get excited about a shiny new toy. We are. But we need to clear the deadwood. And there's no point in bringing new players in and not getting rid of players. And the question is, who is close to leaving Manchester United at the moment? We hear a lot about Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, Mason Greenwood, Jadon Sancho, but who's actually left? Nobody. And what of Pellistri? What of Donny van der Beek? What of Harry Maguire? What of Christian Eriksen? Like, there are a lot of players where there needs to be some clarity about what's happening with them. And I think with some of those players as well, if they stay, I don't think any of those players that I've mentioned, and I think I mentioned 8 players there, if they stay at United, I don't think anyone in the fan base is going to get excited about it. I think it will be, another year, but it's not. They're not exciting. If Wan-Bissaka stays, if Maguire stays, if Eriksen stays, if Donny stays, apart from Pellistri maybe, I don't think that any of those people staying really make you go, oh, that's a good decision for the future. They're just prolonging the inevitable that they will need to be replaced at some point. I mean, we might get another year out of Maguire and Eriksen, and Casemiro, but ultimately we know that they're not part of the future. It's probably going to be that we just can't get rid of them this summer. And I understand that. There will be players that are still at Man United next season because we can't do everything in one summer. But we can do something. And as much as we do, look, if you've got to clear your yard out and you know you're not going to get it done in a day, do you just go and do a little bit of it because I can't get it done in a day? Or do you go at it hard and get rid of it as much as you can so that the next day it's less work? And that's how I'd approach this summer transfer window. I know we can't clear everything out in one summer. But that doesn't mean, we can't do it in one summer, so what's the point? Let's just do a little bit now and a little bit next summer. You clear out as much as you can this summer, knowing that next summer there's less to do. Simple as that. Have you ever thought about uploading live streams as podcasts on other platforms after you've done them, says Sam. Like what, Sam? I'm interested in that. And Phil says, Frimpong, save 26 million, that could help elsewhere. You know what, Phil? I was very, very pleased with Frimpong last night because I was doing a watch-along on That's Football. 3 more today. Sue! That's not me shouting at my neighbour. Ronaldo, 5 o'clock today. Bruno, 5 o'clock today. And Güler for Turkey. Could be a cracker, that one. But yes, I was watching the Netherlands against France last night. Oh my God, the officiating. Welcome to the world of English officiating, the rest of the world. What an absolute pillock to not give that goal. I mean, I stopped watching it at 11 o'clock. It's going in. It doesn't matter how quick Maignon's reactions are. That's going in. It's a goal. Idiots. But I didn't think Frimpong played particularly well. And you know what? I quite like that because I'm not scouting Frimpong playing under Koeman for the Dutch in that system. I want Frimpong based on what I've seen over the last 2 years. And so does Ten Hag. So, and his release clause is low. I'm more than happy that Frimpong doesn't light up this Euros. Because what have we seen with Guehi? What have we seen with Calafiori? These players are adding zeros onto their fee because they're playing well in an international tournament, which doesn't actually translate to a full 9-month season playing 3 times a week. I like your wage structure idea, says Dill5. Yeah, if you didn't see that, look, I'm not saying that INEOS won't do this, but Manchester United's wage structure doesn't make sense. You've got Sancho, Rashford, Casemiro, all around 350k a week. You've got Bruno, Mount around 250k a week. Then you've got Maguire and Shaw and Eriksen and a couple of others around 150 to 200k a week. It doesn't translate at all. What you need to do is say that this is day dot and we're changing the wage structure. So if you're on a current contract and you think you're getting a renewal at that price, you're not. It's going to come down. We're not going to offer you a new contract at that rate. We're not going to sign you at that rate. And basically, it's Jim who made me think about this. We've got no players worth over £100 million. So what you do is you have a valuation chart and you have wages against that. If you're worth £100 million in the transfer market and somebody would pay £100 million for you, I'll give you 250k a week. If you're worth £80 million and somebody would give us that, I'll give you 200k a week. And if you're worth £50 million and someone would give me that, I'll give you 140k a week. That's how we're going to work the wage. The wage structure should be based on the value of the player, not on what an agent can rinse us for. And And I think Liverpool do this. Liverpool's wage structure is actually very good. I was looking at, I think Alisson's on 150k a week. We were giving David De Gea 350. Make it make sense. And I like De Gea, but like the wage structure is a joke. It was just any way the wind blows. It's ridiculous. Roberts is available on a free from Hoffenheim, says Stephen. Never heard of us being linked to him, I'm afraid. God help us if we still have Maguire, says Obim. We would get run over with him because the defence doesn't push up when the offence activate the press. Leaving so much space in behind, he must go, no argument. Well, I think Ten Hag knows that. He tried to move him on last summer, but whether we can move him on or not, I don't know. I think Maguire will go. I can see him staying, but I think Maguire will go because I think he'll be sat there on holiday, watching England, really pissed off, knowing that he would have been playing. Watching Guehi do really well, because the problem with England is not the defence. You know, Stones and Guehi have done very well. So Maguire will be looking at that, going, I've lost my England place. I've effectively lost my United place. I can stay here for another year and earn 190k a week, but I'm going to get further and further away from first team football. Whereas, if he can get himself a decent move to a team where he's going to play every week, I think he could win his England place back, and the World Cup's coming up in 2 years. So I think for Maguire, it's about whether he wants to sit on his arse and earn money, or whether he wants to go and play football. And I think he'll want to play football, certainly for England as well. So I think he'll go, unless he's going to be Man United starting centre-back. But that's bad advice if someone's saying you can be Man United starting centre-back, because I just don't think he can in the way that we want to play. He wouldn't be able to be Liverpool's starting centre-back because of the way they play. So I'd be interested. He might stay, but I think the ambition to try and retain his England place will make him knock on the door. Same with Lindelof, which means we'll buy 2 centre-backs, hopefully. That's best for everybody. I would wish Maguire and Lindelof well if they went and played somewhere else. To everything, turn. There is a season. A time to be born, a time to die. You know, I think there's a time to move on, and I think it is time to move on for some of these players. Graham says, I think Neto will cost too much. We don't know what the Wolves situation is. There's been a lot of talk about Everton and, you know, moving players on to hit the June 30th deadline around profit and sustainability rules. I don't know what the situation is with Wolves, really. Mark, is there any watch-alongs today? Says All Day Gamer. Yes, 3. We've got Georgia against somebody. Czech Republic at 2. Massive game. Portugal against Turkey at 5. And then Belgium, Romania at 8. Can the Romanians cause another upset and send the Belgians home? We'll be live for that, and United Stand will be at 7. So I'm doing Portugal-Turkey at 5. Straight onto here for 7. And then straight back to That's Football for Belgium. So basically, I'm streaming from about 5 till 10 tonight. So join me. You're very, very welcome on That's Football, of course. Yeah, I've enjoyed the Euros. Just very quickly, what does it mean for Manchester United? I just wanted to add nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing in the Euros that really affects us, really. We shouldn't be scouting new players based on an international tournament, in my opinion. And a lot of the players we're looking at aren't even in the Euros. But those that we're looking at, hopefully Frimpong, João Neves, Xerxes, it makes it a little bit difficult. But it does slow down deals as well, says Marco. But having said that, you know what? As much as it slows down deals, I saw something today that on this day in 2012, we signed Kagawa. And on this day in 2000 and something, Liverpool signed Salah. So you do get deals in June, but you also get players are on holiday in June and they just want to relax. So it doesn't mean that June is, you know, an avalanche of transfers. And what I hope and suspect will happen is what we saw with Schweinsteiger and Schneiderlin when they happened really close together. And there's no problem in actually working on deals that accumulate together. There's no problem, and we've done it before, haven't we? Where you unveil 2 players at once. I think we've done 3 players at once before as well. So, look, time isn't running out yet. I'm not stressed about that. The decision on Ten Hag was quite late. It happened in June. I still think there's plenty of time. I'm not really up for saying this is a big week for Manchester United because that's bit us in the arse on so many times and so many years. But we are heading into the final week of June. And I think over the next 2 weeks, we'll definitely see some movement. I think June to July is huge. It's the change of a football financial year. It's the end of contracts. People become free, like Rabiot. Decisions start to get made. So I think the next 2 weeks are key. If we come out in the next 2 weeks and nothing's done, I'd start to worry a little bit, because you're hitting what, the 7th of July and nothing's done. So I think the next 2 weeks you can pretty much guarantee there's going to be some movement there. This month has gone very quick, says Sherman. It's always the same when there's a big tournament. Definitely. Anyway, look, thanks everybody for watching this morning. You've absolutely smashed it, as always. Some cracking comments on there, and we've got through some great stuff without talking about Branthwaite. Really, we didn't really talk about Xerxes that much as well, which is great to see. Very, very pleased for Ralph Rangnick as well. Yeah, very, very pleased. The bit of an update from TalkSport. Oh, God, why did I even read it? Man United want to agree personal terms with Xerxes before triggering his 34 million release clause. United are in negotiations with his agent. Yeah. I said this a few weeks ago, didn't I? You know, you can make a career as a journalist by just copying other people these days. I wouldn't even go to university. If you want to be a journalist for a major news outlet, I wouldn't go to uni. I'd just get very used to get very used to using the words control and C and control and V, and just, you know, whack it into ChatGPT and say, make this sound a little bit different. Yeah, absolute shite. And also, you know, some might say, well, is that not what you do in a news show? Well, we do. We give you the statement, but then we talk about it. That's the difference. Like, we don't just take it and copy it. We actually digest it and go, I don't think this player would be good, or I think this would be good, or what about this alternative? And my favourite bit of the show was actually comparing the creativity of Elise, Chiesa, Rashford and Garnacho, because my big takeaway is that Garnacho, low-key, isn't far off Elise and Chiesa on their best attributes, and he's only 19. And I keep saying this about Garnacho. He's not Rashford and he's not Antony. He can be selfish, but he's 19. And when you compare him to an Elise and you compare him to a Chiesa, yes, they're better at putting crosses in and they are more creative, but he's not far off. Like Rashford last season was bloody miles off. Garnacho's not far off those players. He's 3 years younger than Elise. He's 7 years younger than Chiesa. He is an untapped resource that can, in 2 years' time, if we develop him in the right way, he could be an absolute monster at creating chances. As you know, he is so. I don't know why people don't realise that Garnacho is untapped. Like he's an untapped resource that you can basically mould into whatever you like. He has the X factor, like someone just said in the chat, but also he can be generational, yes, but he gets criticised and he's not the finished article. And look, him being part of that Argentinian squad with the likes of Messi and everybody else is great for him, really is. Thanks everyone for watching. I will speak to you on the watch-alongs later unless anything happens in before. Get over to That's Football for that. Take care. I'll speak to you in a bit.